Here's my review on the Pandora. Don't get it. Thanks for watching my review. I don't have a clear-cut plan for this video, so I anticipate a lot of mumbling. So Pandora 11, 85 bucks. Gotta mention that a lot because the price point is probably the biggest highlight of this. Comes with this joystick thing, right? And on the back of the joystick is the actual device itself. So like built into it actually is the device. So you have the device, which you notice it has wires there that are upside down. Deal with it. And it also comes with a plug that plugs directly into it. This is the outlet. This is where you're getting your energy from. And then it comes with an HDMI cable, which is cool. It also comes with a VGA cable and a USB cable, but you don't have to worry about either of those things because I'm assuming that you're not plugging this into an older computer monitor or something along the lines of that. I want to talk about the hardware a little bit for a second. If you notice, when plugged in, really easy to plug in, by the way. It's straightforward, just plug and play. You don't have to install anything, you don't have to do anything. But with these LED lights, you have these shifting LED lights and two controllers already built in. Kind of cool. One of the first things I noticed is with the joystick. Give a listen. You hear that click? That click is usually a sign of a cheap joystick. The buttons themselves are okay. They don't make too much noise. They do give you two replacement buttons, which makes me believe that either they're afraid that buttons are going to get broken during shipment, or these buttons are prone to wearing out. So keep that in mind. Yeah, one of the things I noticed is I'm not sure, there's like a thin coat of like plastic on top of this. I don't know if it's meant to preserve the base of it itself, or it's just meant for, you know, when you're shipping it so nothing gets scuffed, but I've kept that on. If it's supposed to be on, it sucks because it got loose pretty easily. If it's not supposed to be on, then I'm an idiot. I don't know what to tell you. What's cool about this is, in addition to, again, all the wires I mentioned before, or the plugs, which I'll go over a little bit later, you also have a volume, which I'm going to raise. So you hear, watch. Boom, there's a speaker built in. You can adjust the volume of the speaker. There's a slight delay when you do it. It's like a turn thing. So for the software of games, one of the first things I noticed is that this claims to have over, I think, 1,600 different types of games, or arcade-style games, to be played. Watch this. We're at number 1 already here. Keep in mind, King of Fighters 99, you don't even go through a full 20 games before you see another version of it. That happens rather frequently, especially with fighting games. If you notice, if I go further down, here's another version of 99. Here's another version of 99. Here's another version of 99. And that's just one game. They do that a lot with the King of Fighters, the Street Fighter games and stuff. And sometimes there are slight variations, which is kind of cool. You might notice that there's some characters unlocked in one and characters that aren't unlocked in the other. But you don't really need to pad the stats like that, which they do a lot. Now, also, I was under the impression when I purchased this, I'm going to skim through some of these really quick, that when it said 1,600 games, they would all be arcade-style games. Now, they definitely aren't all arcade-style games. Oh, you just see, look at this, a bunch of King of Fighters 2001. Yeah, it was almost at 300, and we're still looking at different versions of King of Fighters. So I started to notice, hey, look, we have Streets of Rage. Streets of Rage is my favorite video game franchise. In case you didn't know, I can tell you for a fact that it was never released on arcade on its own. Sometimes, they would put them in like maybe bootlegs or like specific like Genesis based arcades, but it was never its own game. So I'm going to go into it really quick. I'm going to press the wrong button. Also, this is what happens. It loads up every game for a couple of seconds like this. It isn't that bad. So it kind of jumps into the game. I'm going to go down here so I can show you. I'm pressing start. It is literally the Sega Genesis game. It is not an arcade game at all, and you're playing it through emulation. Another thing as well, I don't know if it does it to optimize graphics. I don't know if you look at the way Axel is. They do like some type of filter, I guess, like an HD filter over the sprites in general. If you notice, they look kind of like a little muddy or washed out. Give you some examples of gameplay. You're going to hear all sorts of buttons, which is a pet peeve of mine. Yeah, so they put some type of filter on it, which I found highly annoying. You can press the pause button to actually get out of it, which didn't work. Sometimes you have to play the player 2 pause button, so I pressed this. Then it says pause and continue. Boom, hit exit. and then it exits out the game. It takes a few seconds, and then you can go through games again. One of the things I really like about it, because it has so many games, is if you notice, and there's a search option in the menus. Well, first off, I actually like the fact that you can see little video clips of all the games, even though sometimes you can tell that they're not screen recorded with this software in mind. Sometimes you'll notice some type of autoplay or logos and things along the lines of that. But with the search play, you can search for a specific game. So if you're looking for games, you can find stuff. So I'm going to test this out right now. I want to show you a game that really disappointed me. So so I found NBA Jam, and it's one of my favorite arcade games of all time. If you look at the video, you might notice that it's almost like a little bit in slow motion or very choppy. So when you actually go into the game, look at this. Shit's in slow motion. Audio's a little muddy. And actually, audio's okay. But this is not a state-of-the-art, top-quality game. This should not be moving like this. I'm just going to shoot really quick. There you go. Look at that shit. This should not run that way. This is not a state-of-the-art game. I just scored a 3. That's pretty awesome. But yeah, not a good look so far. So once I saw that it was running the 2D game slow, I decided, oh, let me check out the 3D, because it does boast being able to play 3D a lot. Or at least with the ads and the information I saw about it, it talks about, oh, 3D play and so on and so forth. So I was like, okay, let me go to Mortal Kombat. First off, Mortal Kombat 4 is supposed to be in 3D. The game they're showing, that's not Mortal Kombat. I mean, that's not Mortal Kombat 4 in 3D. So I noticed no arcade screen, anything like that, just jump straight to the game. So I'm like, all right, whatever, I'll pick a character. Let's play. Let it load up. This is showing you all of this stuff is probably, oops. So I noticed that loading screen, that's a little bit concerning too, because you typically don't see a straight up freeze like that in arcade games. The game runs very smoothly. I'm getting my ass kicked. This is what happens when you play with one hand. Another thing as well to mention, actually, the control scheme that you have here is actually not optimized for all games. So while the controls will run perfectly for, say, Street Fighter 2 or Capcom-based fighters, if you're playing Mortal Kombat, these buttons won't match what they typically match in the arcade. Now, for your average gamer, that might not mean too much, but you'll notice certain games, like fighting games that only use the 4-button scheme, instead of using 1, 2, 3, 4 or 1, 2, 3, 4 like they should, they will use 1, 2, 3, 4, and that sucks. You can change that, but the issue is with the menu system here, which I might go into a little bit later, you actually have to change everything. So if you decide to change it to these being the 4 attack buttons, when you go into Capcom, and if you save it, of course, if you go into a Capcom-based fighter, you're going to notice that all of these buttons are totally misaligned. So that's a bit of a negative for me. Going back to Mortal Kombat, I noticed you can pause the game and quit, which you can't do in an arcade. Or I can try to quit. There we go. And what I quickly learned is that virtually all the games that boast 3D actually aren't playing their arcade counterparts. They're actually playing, look, DualShock disabled. They're actually playing via PlayStation emulation. It's a bit disappointing for me because PlayStation emulation for most arcade games, not all, but most arcade games, you're going to get inferior graphical quality. You're going to get inferior smoothness and animation. So presentation-wise, it's taking a bit of a hit. And then also as well, you might have certain characters that aren't unlocked that were already unlocked in the arcade and things along the lines of that. If you do listen for a second though, I will say that this is one of the games where the audio is nice. I would say more often than not you get a positive overall vibe in regards to sound quality, and also for the older arcade games they run pretty smoothly, but for the newer arcade games, and by newer, I mean the ones that are in 3D. They're not even arcade. I mean, you saw NBA Jam struggle. The first Mortal Kombat game also struggles. So, one of the things I wanted to show you is there is an options menu like I mentioned before. You're allowed to customize the button configuration. Now, I'm going to go into this for a second. You can change the map, like I said. What I have noticed is it says joystick settings, which means you can play with up to 2 game pads attached to it. I'm assuming that's what the USB ports are. I will test it out when I get a chance, and I will follow up via text as to whether or not those work and how well they work, which is one of the tremendously positives. How the hell do I get out of here? The fact that if you're able to play with up to 4 people on this thing, 2 using the joysticks, 2 using USB purchase thingamajiggies, that's phenomenal. By the way, the settings play this I don't even know. What is this, opera music? You can lower it. Lowered. Cool. So to end it, I guess on a more positive note, here's another example of a game running. Again, you might not be able to notice, but I noticed very clearly that the sprites have some type of gloss over them that makes them look a bit more like watercolors when they're supposed to be crisp. So it's almost like a little blurry. So overall, my thoughts on it, for $85, it's fine. But if this is your first like retro purchase, I would actually probably favor the RetroPie over this, because while this has the added benefit of giving you the joysticks so you get the arcade experience at home, and you also have everything already plugged in, so it's just plug and play. If you take a little extra time with the RetroPie, not only can you get more games that run slightly better, you can also purchase joysticks for the controllers. I just feel like for me, you're getting a more authentic experience, whether it's via arcade or not via arcade, with the RetroPie. Yeah, so my overall thoughts out of 10, I would say this is about maybe like, for me, it's like a 6. You know, it's barely passable, if that. But I guess for your average gamer, it might be up to a 7. I would recommend this thing for casual gamers and people that are looking for a really cheap and easy way to have an arcade experience, as well as enjoy a little extra bonuses. Because what I didn't show is the fact that it's not just 1 or 2 games that are PlayStation emulated or emulated from like the Sega Genesis. There's probably like a couple of hundred games from Sega Genesis, Super Nintendo, and the 16-bit era, which could be viewed as a lovely bonus. But for me, it was a little buzzkill. I would rather have more arcade games. But yeah, that's just me.